Rakesh. How are you?
I'm doing good, L'Oreal. How are you?
I'm also very good. Thank you for asking. I believe we have some exciting news for the cybersecurity industry. Is that correct?
Yes. Very excited to bring in an innovative threat investigation, hunting, and management platform, which has got generative AI capabilities. And it is something very unique in the way it actually helps the CISOs of multiple organizations have a very peaceful sleep in the night.
Oh, fantastic. So, talking about the C-suites, can you elaborate what are some of the challenges faced by manufacturing C-suites versus the banking sector C-suites versus retail C-suites in terms of cybersecurity?
Yeah, for sure. So each of these chief information security officers have different challenges, right? For example, if you think about a banking CISO, right? The very specific thing that he's actually focused upon on a day-to-day basis is protecting sensitive financial data, right? Regulatory compliances, managing third-party vendors, interacting with the organization on a regular basis, keeping up with the latest technology advances, and not but the least is the shortage of the cyber security skill set, right? These are some of the challenges that a banking CISO gets challenged on a daily basis, right? Whereas if you look at manufacturing CISOs, the IoT as well as the supply chain are two critical elements where a manufacturing CISO loses his sleep on a regular basis, because there are if you look at the IoT area itself, domain itself, there is multiple third-party devices, connections that come into a particular organization or enterprise network, and they challenge a lot of risk into the corporate environment or the enterprise environment, right? If you look at from a perspective of supply chain, there is third-party vendors who actually connect, exchange data, they provide data, so on and so forth. That set of challenges from a risk and threat perspective is extremely prone to new types of attacks and threat vectors and so on and so forth, right? If you look at a retail CISO, the online domain where you're actually trying to have customers come across and shop with you on the retail front, poses a different set of challenges altogether, which is e-commerce security itself in the first place, right? So these are some of the various plethora of challenges the CISOs experience, and we have a solution that basically caters to all the CISOs, and we can basically flex it up to their requirements. That's the unique way of approach of our solution.
Okay, fantastic. So if you could just tell me, what is BCT's managed security threat hunting platform, and how is it unique in terms of its competitive value proposition in the market?
Sure. When we began this journey almost 2 years before, right, and 2 to 3 years before, where we actually wanted a particular platform which could basically simulate multiple things in real time, right? When I say simulate multiple things in real time, meaning is today in the industry we have a lot of SIEM devices doing standalone functionality. Now, standalone functionality doesn't add true value across the enterprise, because you need individual expertise to look at the standalone devices, inferences, and then correlate together to understand or explain the threat exposure to the higher management, right? And that takes a lot of time, a lot of inferences from multiple skill sets of people working in the same domain, right? Which is, again, as I mentioned to you, the cyber skill sets are extremely rare in nature. But that was the genesis of the idea. But the platform that we have actually developed, the fundamental thing that is actually working in the background is generative AI. Now, what is generative AI is, it basically has data sets available, and there is a machine learning algorithm applied to these data sets, which basically provide new sets of data in the context of the existing data that is available within the machine learning model itself, right? Now, why is it so different? Is because we have an ability to make sure that the threat databases are investigated, updated, and these elements of data sets are fed back to the platform, which applies generative AI techniques and machine learning model techniques to generate very valid data that can be inferenced against the threat exposure or the threat hunting process itself, right? Now, there is a couple of processes that we actually do. So we create synthetic data sets, we create attack scenarios, we mimic attack behaviors. We also have an expanding threat intelligence also applied to the same platform. Because of all of these factors, our platform is very unique, intelligent, and very responsive to making sure that the threat hunting, threat investigation, and the compliance factors are met on time.
That sounds fantastic. It actually sounds like, all encompassing from an end-to-end solution. Now, I know that one of the biggest challenges, doesn't matter what industry that you're in, when it comes to cybersecurity, balancing or managing false positives is a huge challenge. So, how can false positives be reduced by a threat management platform?
A very good question, and this is one of the biggest problems that I have actually seen many of the CISOs as well as the senior X talks to me on a regular basis. Right? See, false positives, determining between the real threats and the exposure to versus false positives is one of the challenges where the middle management is actually challenged with, because they need to infer and tell the higher management what is the relevance of the false positive, whether it is real threats hiding in between the false positives. Right now, there are a couple of mechanisms that we do to avoid the false positives, right? And one of the biggest things that we have actually incorporated is the generative AI capability within the platform, right? Now, they reduce. So how does the generative AI reduce the false positive? Is to basically learn from the previous events and identify patterns in the data, right? Now, once they identify the patterns in the data, the system processes the data and it becomes more accurate in distinguishing between the legitimate and the suspicious events, right? And it is like an automatic filter that comes across and provides the quick view of the real threat that hides among the thousands and thousands of false positives, right? That's one technique. Then, but I won't say that will be the one alone functionality that the platform offers. There is a behavior analysis coupled with that. There is a contextual awareness coupled with that. There is a human oversight, which I will stress because having worked in this domain for almost 2 decades, right? The ability of the human behavior the ability of the human nature to infer and detect something is still not being replicated by the machines. Wow. So there is no actual 100% fault-proof security offered by any platform in the world, because the human intelligence and the human inference is still important. So we also have an ability to offer that along with this. And last but not the least is the adaptive policies, right, that we actually put in place, where the system is able to adjust its alerting thresholds, right, based on the changing conditions and the user behavior. And it actually helps ensure that the alerts are only triggered when a real, true suspicious event is detected.
That's fantastic. I think this is definitely a unique proposition when it comes to the threat management platform. As you say, in the security industry, things are constantly evolving. So there is no 100% security proof measure at present. And you've gone into quite a lot of detail about our threat management platform. My last question to you is, how are we making enterprise security mature and threat proof as a fit for future organization in the digital economy?
Yeah, this is something very good question, Rahul, and this is something that we actually enhance our platforms on a daily basis, right? For example, I talked about it earlier in my conversation. It's about creating synthetic data sets. Now, using generative AI, we can create synthetic data sets of attacks and vulnerabilities that can be used to train the machine learning model of our platform to identify new and previously unknown threats, right? So that's one critical thing that we actually enable the platform or continuously enable the platform to do. Second is generating attack scenarios. Now, what do you mean by generating attack scenarios? Is using the generative AI capability, we can generate attack scenarios that can help security teams prepare and respond to real world attacks, right? For example, if there is an attack that is released in one part of the world, we immediately get that signature database across the public platforms or across the private platforms. We incorporate that particular ability into the platform immediately, right? And our AI generative model and our machine learning algorithm is fast enough to learn because from the data set and make sure that we are ready even before such an attack even sniffs around our environment, right? The third aspect is mimicking the attack behavior. Now, generative AI can be used to mimic the behavior of attacks, creating synthetic attack traffic that can help identify and mitigate potential threats. That is something that we regularly enable the platform with, right? The last but not the least is expanding threat intelligence, right? Because today, if you look at it, a known threat that comes across to the organization can be camouflaged into a different unique signature at a later point of time, and still the attackers can use that as a mechanism to gain access, right? So expanding threat intelligence, what we do is the generative AI can be used to expand the threat intelligence by generating new examples of attacks, by creating new examples of attacks and vulnerabilities that can be added to the existing threat, which we later use it to train our machine model on a regular basis. So there is a continuous training which actually happens across, and there is an absolute touch with the relevancy of the threat database that is actually present in the world. Now, if there is any unknown threat comes across, also the model and the platform is equipped enough to defend that because of the generative AI capabilities inbuilt in the platform.
That is fantastic. I'm very happy to hear all of this. It kind of sounds like we have the cybersecurity superhero of the day. Now, I know that you will also be participating at GISEC. If there is any specific message that you wanted to share with the GISEC audience right now, what would that be?
Yes, there is. See, we are also we have a very specific functionality and a platform available, but the platform is also evolving with is going to evolve very dynamically in the future. Now, one of the area of the evolution that we are thinking through at the moment, and which we are going to make it very practical soon, is if you look at an enterprise, there will be multiple assets the enterprise has, right? For example, routers, switches, third-party devices, so on and so forth. One of the things that we are actually trying to solve a problem for a CISO is to help them with a dashboard view of how the threat maps onto each of these assets across the corporate network or the enterprise network, right? For example, whenever I design a solution, I put myself in the shoes of a CISO, and I think, what are some of the things that will help my job easy to do, as well as be confident about how I'm actually managing my entire enterprise or the entire network, right, for that matter. So one thing that we are actually envisaging and taking as a future product evolution is to identify the threats on each of the assets across the device, and also give the threat exposure in real time in a dashboard with a single view back to the CISO. It's a very, very intelligent concept that we are going to make it available in the platform pretty soon.
That sounds fantastic, and I think the MENA region is really excited to see what you have to showcase. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm sure we'll have many more discussions like this. Looking forward to seeing this demo in real time, and wishing you a wonderful day.
Same to you, L'Oreal, and looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you.